The Aussie brand, most people resonate residential mortgages, and it's true, we do them. Today is about talking more about the other aspect of our business, which is asset finance. Asset finance world is completely different to the residential space. So what Lucy said is true, accredited across just over 22 lenders in the residential space. The asset finance panel is actually completely different to that of the residential one. Aussie recognised that we had a bit of a gap in that asset finance space, and we brought in a company called Mildura Finance and utilised their panel. It's still all branded through Aussie. Some of the things we can do in the asset finance space, aeroplanes are one of them. I haven't been fortunate enough to do one yet, but if you can introduce me to somebody, that would be fantastic. So we've got your common cars, trucks, tractors, excavators. So they're deemed as class A with wheels. Moving on from that, we go into a little bit more extensive stuff, being gym equipment. Now this can be for the entire fit out of a gym. So that's about $250,000 worth of equipment in a commercial gym. And we can do the fit out for those with the whole thing financed and no deposit on it. Medical equipment is a big one, and it's something that a lot of health professionals go straight through MedFin for. It's actually incredibly expensive for them to do it. They do it because that's who they were introduced to when they were coming out of grad school, and they've just never ventured outside of it. So there is a lot of benefit in people speaking to somebody outside of what they do commonly. And then in the Class C section, the fit out fits in part of that, but it comes in secured and unsecured business loans. So you don't actually need collateral outside of the equipment that you're financing. That panel that we spoke about, so here are some of the panel, and dependent on what bit of equipment we're financing will depend on who is going to suit you. Over time, asset finance has moved away from a straight rate, and we now look at two sections. So the first being a consumer finance. Consumer finance is your average mum and dad, PAYG employer, personal kind of finance. Now this is stuff like your cars, it can be for hobby equipment. The consumer finance space can have a term somewhere between 1 and 7 years with no balloon payment on the end, and new or used vehicles no older than 12 years at the end of the term. So what that means is you can actually still finance a used vehicle, and it can be acquired through private sale, so it doesn't have to be bought through a dealership, which is great because things like car sales, Gumtree, you can still acquire assets from there. We have moved away from the set price, as I mentioned, and it's now all risk-based. So this is where it gets really confusing for a consumer who walks into a car yard because they actually have no idea what they're comparing against. Walking into a car yard, you'll be given a built-in figure with what they call a 1% interest rate, and in the background of that will be almost $3,500 of brokerage fees and other fees that aren't disclosed. The price of the vehicle is actually higher than that if you had actually asked for a cash price. So a little bit about what I do is looking at what you were given in the car yard, and then looking at the end thing, and what you can't hide from is your monthly repayment. As soon as we put two monthly repayments next to each other, it is clear who the winner is. I'm very proud to say that I have walked away from deals because if that monthly repayment doesn't check out, I will not do a transaction. The next portion of it is the commercial side. So this is the bigger part of the business, and the part that I'm more interested in building because this is helping business owners. Anybody with an ABN is eligible for what they call a low doc loan. Most of us in this room are self-employed, and I'm sure I don't have to explain to you that what people actually earn isn't what their tax return says in the self-employed space. So then when you go to finance a transaction, it's often hard to prove that you can afford it. So this low doc space really helps businesses grow. To take that step and expand the warehouse, take on extra contracts, you need equipment, you need assets behind you to do it. This this space, ABN registered for 2 years, GST, and if they are property owners, they don't have to be, but if they are, it's a 24-hour transaction. My clients, yes, the typical mum and dad, PAYG employers, self-employed tradesmen, builders, plumbers, electricians, business owners, people in this room. Every single one of you at some point will have a need for asset finance. It might be as simple as a car, it might be your next Apple Mac, it might be a fit out at a store. Likewise, the people in not just your professional networks but your personal networks at some point will need asset finance. I don't know if you can see that, but who do you know that you can introduce me to? So today we've talked a little bit more about what can be financed and who those people may be. I'm confident that every one of you knows somebody that I should be speaking to. Thank you.